Welcome, everyone, to What the Force. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host, and this is another Bad Batch report where we are covering the two-part season finale of The Bad Batch Season 2. And joining me is the amazing, the incomparable Mollie.
Woo! That's the pain train. Hi there. I'm arriving in on it.
Maybe we should have seen this coming. It feels we're both sad. I got your text and I was like, when you had watched it, because you watch it as soon as it comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh no, what happened?
What was I texted like the same thing over and over, I think. What was I saying? Like,
I'm gonna
oh
open it
man,
up.
or something.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't want to give anything away. But I texted.
You were like, oh man. All right. Well, enjoy.
Joy was at the very end.
Yeah. And you had edited that, so I was like, you said something else.
No. I think I did have a typo in there because sometimes when you're crying, you don't see what you're typing.
Oh no.
And let me preface this to say that I haven't seen this week's Mando yet, so I don't know how it correlates with it or anything. Nothing's been spoiled for me yet. I was just a little too impacted by. I mean, I was like, my focus is going to be with this two-part finale, and it was. We knew it was going to be hard. We just weren't sure why or how.
I mean, we sort of talked about it last time when we talked about Lap of the Goddess, and that you kind of only pull that out when you're about to go into like a really deep, emotional, hard situation. And yeah, you're right. Oh my goodness.
Also, like up at the top, I just want to say that you have really cool listeners, really cool fans. I love when you tweet about the new episode and people, not that you need your mythology references backed up or anything, but I just really like how you have just like the right people, listening in, and that they totally get what you're saying. I just think it's just cool. And like, as difficult as this finale is, it's like awesome to be here. And I hope that, if anyone else is feeling the pain train, if they're riding the pain train,
we're all on the pain train.
Yeah, we're all
just
on
like
it.
The whole Bad Batch took the train.
Stop. Exactly.
To Pain Mountain.
Pain Mountain, exactly. But yeah, we knew, like you said, Lap of the Goddess. We just weren't sure.
Yeah,
what was gonna happen.
So there's like there's just one thing that I wanted to talk about before we dig into this episode. That of course. Well, actually, there's a few things, because I think it's important to reiterate House of Atreus, Mount Tantalus being a direct reference to Tantalos, the Greek character that fed his children to the gods, basically, as sort of a sin. And this sort of represents consumption and where we are at as a society where we are very willing to sacrifice our children instead of changing laws. And the clones represent that, right? So that's a really, really important thing to keep in mind as you sort of think about this episode. What is this saying? And we talked about how the Lap of the Goddess is always kind of the lead up into that. I also think that it's been really interesting that we've been dealing with so many mountain-shaped places, right? So that, of course, is sort of the Freudian psyche with the superego, conscious and preconscious and subconscious, all represented in a mountain-like shape. And throughout the course of this season, Omega and the team have been seeking things of value within mountains. Deep, deep, deep within mountains, within hills, within mountains. They're always looking for buried treasure. And I think where that leads by the end of these two episodes is deeply significant.
Well, and you just don't know what you're going to find, which I would say is the best way to sum up that ending.
Mm-hmm.
The very ending, because it's just, you just don't know what you're going to find, because I certainly didn't know, and I don't think Omega knew either.
Nope, not really.
No.
So let's start out with the summit, which is a great name for a mountain-related episode.
I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, MC's going to love that.
And it has a double meaning, of course, right? Because it's bringing together all of these very significant sort of planners and people that are working on large projects that involve control and sort of bringing about the new order that the empire will live under. But we start on Pabu, where Tech briefs the rest of the Bad Batch as he's searching through Republican Imperial files, trying to find more information. He finds nothing on Crosshair and Dr. Hemlock other than they figure out that Hemlock will be on a planet named Eridu in 2 rotations, so 2 days roughly. And they can plant a homing beacon on his ship and it'll lead them straight back to Crosshair, right? So thematically, we have this concept of like Ariadne's string, right? The leading you out of the darkness, from the monster.
I need everyone to know Marie-Claire was looking at me as if I was going to be like, yeah, like I know every reference. I'm not as well versed as she is. I am familiar with much of this, but it's been quite a while since I read mythology. So
that's okay.
Your listeners get it though. So anyway.
And they're about to leave. They've packed everything up. They're really into finding. They've all decided, yes, we're gonna go and find Crosshair. And Fee stops them as they're about to go, and Omega says they're going on a covert mission. And Fee and Tech have this amazing moment,
right,
where she's like, "Hey, you dummy! Like, pay attention." And I love the line that she says, like, don't interact or don't hang out with any smugglers or pirates. Because she's saying, like, don't flirt with anybody else while you're out there. I love them.
Last time. And it's just like, I honestly was like, oh my God, they're going to kiss. I mean, they may as well. In my book, like, they basically did. And he had that moment where he's like, oh. Just like, which I'm kind of like, I actually was proud of him because he is so like, he's like a computer and I just wasn't expecting him to catch on like that. And I just think it's so funny because out of all the members of the Bad Batch, like that's who Fee is like going for. But it's something with those goggles, I guess. I get it. He's got the coolest, like, I mean, Wrecker's paint job is awesome, but I've always thought Tech's gear is like some of the coolest. So she's probably kind of like, that's hot. I thought that moment was just, I mean, it was great. I was so happy. I loved it. I didn't expect to get that with Bad Batch, so I'm happy.
I love them so much. And, I have to put the gauntlet down to say the ultimate challenge is really to animate a good kiss. So
that's fair.
The gauntlet is laid.
Yeah, but
do it.
Even a hug, I'd be, overjoyed. But
more kisses in Star Wars.
Yeah, you're right. I would be nice. I mean, I actually legitimately thought that's what we were gonna get. So at least they convinced me because I'm the one who said we're not gonna get a kiss in Rise of Skywalker. But the fact that I thought we were gonna get a kiss in Bad Batch season 2, that convinced me more. So I just want to say though that this should have been my clue number 1.
Okay.
This was clue number 1. This was a moment that I thought it's and there's probably something you can pull from with myth, but it's I love those moments of like brevity before a trial where there's just that heartfelt like right before you go off to war sort of moment where everything's light and there's significance in what they're going to show before the bad stuff happens. And so the fact that it was about Tech, actually this was moment number 2, I think I can't remember if this was before or after he said something about Crosshair, but
I think it's significant in 2 ways. The first is that showing genuine affection between friends, between potential romantic partners, it shows why you do what you do, right? And shows that Tech and Fee would both be willing to do what they're doing for Crosshair, right? I also think that it's sort of a waste if Tech doesn't come back.
Yeah, because why set that up, and then why have Fee show her sad?
Yeah, why have us care this much?
Right. I would just be surprised too, just getting out of the way, I guess, because well, I don't know. I was going to say because it's an animated show, but losing Kanan in Rebels was the worst feeling in the world. And we also, from, even what I saw for Clone Wars, I mean, Satine.
My kids still haven't finished Rebels because of Kanan's death.
It was hard. But he still kind of lives on in the Force though. And so he's still, in a sense there.
I get that, but he can't be there for his child. He can't be there for Hera. So as much as the Force is yay, he lives on in the Force and he's always with us.
But
it doesn't mean the same thing as somebody coming home from.
No, I know. I just meant that it's not a true death in the sense of how we remember people through our memories and we look for signs. This is a concrete thing in Star Wars that someone basically is living on in the Force and you can interact with that person legitimately. And so because Tech he's not a Jedi, that's not happening. Yeah. That's why I would be surprised if he really does experience a true, we haven't seen any characters experience a true death in Bad Batch that, for our main characters, that just hasn't happened. We don't really see that with the animated shows, and it would just be, to me, a sacrifice for no reason. And I don't want to see it take that direction. And maybe, I guess I should have brought this up later, but
yeah. Let's dig into what happens next. Okay, so
go for it.
They sneak in past the light cruiser, Ella, Han Solo and Chewie, and Return of the Jedi, using clearance codes, and they land on Eridu and decide to take the sort of train to the mountain. It reminded me a lot of the Solo train.
I was just thinking, same thing.
Yeah,
which is some of the best music and action in Solo. Oh, I love everything with the train.
I love Solo so much.
I love Solo.
Yep. And they land. I think their code was 3811 or something like that.
Good job.
Yeah, it was 1138, but reversed with the 2 digits. And so, haha, we see you. And they set up to sort of turn off the sensor and then jump aboard the train, and it's very complicated. And of course they need Tech. They need Tech for literally everything. He is so important for everything that they do.
Well, that's another thing I said. I was just they would not survive without him. No offense to some of the other members, but he's extremely important. Maybe a little more so sometimes. They're all important, don't get me wrong, but he's extremely valuable.
Oh, it's actually the malfunction that happens with the sensors, 3811. Yeah. But he manages to turn it off. They all grab their extension guns, their grappling cables, and they jump aboard this train, and everything seems to be going well, which we know means Rex is not on the mission. Because everything is about to go to crap.
Right? If Rex was there, I would have been so content.
They tark inside of the compound in the very peak of the summit, right? So this idea of being at the pivot and this leadership group. So it's Tarkin, Hurst, Ramodi, of course, Hemlock is there. They all sit down and they're talking about ensuring that there's stormtrooper presence across the galaxy so they can all ensure galactic unification through control. And they sort of heavily drop the Emperor Palpatine needs us to do this cloning experiments, and that he hopes to unlock the Kaminoan secrets. I think you and I are smart enough to guess what he's trying to do, which of course, relates to the rise of Skywalker. He's trying to clone himself and still maintain his Force abilities.
I do like the tie-in though, because I like when they do that with shows, and they don't always necessarily. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I do like when it with animated shows. I feel like it gives it, because people are quick to write off animated shows. There's actually a lot in this episode. I think it's just this episode. I can't honestly. They blended together for me because there was a lot of pain last night, or early hours of the morning. But there were a lot of concrete tie-ins to things that I think give the show a lot of credibility for people who don't necessarily buy into the animated shows.
Oh no, it was totally in the world and making sense of the world that
I appreciate. I like it.
Yeah. The plot of The Rise of Skywalker did not do well.
That too.
Yeah.
I didn't mean that, but yeah.
Yeah. And Hemlock's like, it's very convenient. We could just take these like rebel clones and decommission them and then use them as test subjects.
Hate him.
Oh God, he's the worst. And of course, like Ramodi is like, the Senate doesn't look too kindly on that. And Hemlock's like, but you know what? They're just property. And this is actually...
He's not the one that said that.
What?
Who's the one that was like, I actually fought with the clone? Yeah, I was like, okay. Like...
Oh, no. That was a different guy named Barton Coburn.
Okay, thanks,
different
Barton.
Guy, yeah. Yeah, he actually was like, they're good guys. Like, come on.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I just needed... There was an exciting moment in this scene, so I got distracted.
But I think... it's really significant that Hemlock says that the clones are just property. This is really important because this ties back to the House of Atreus again, because many people view children as property.
Yeah.
And it's just tying up that theme and that parallel to what is the downfall of a civilization when you start consuming your own children, because you're consuming your future. Yeah. Of course, this leads to the greatest line in existence where they actually talk about clone rebellion. And I'm like, Clone Trooper Rebellion was actually listed.
Yes. That's like the closest we got. I figured out kind of at some point. I don't know. I figured out some point in this episode that this wasn't going to go the way that I thought it was going to go. So at least they, said it.
Yeah.
Better than nothing.
They did. And of course, Tarkin moves on and, talks to Krennic about Project Stardust.
So, okay. I'm a big Ben Mendelsohn fan. Like, I'm a huge fan. And I love Krennic. I don't know why. I just love Krennic. And I was squealing because I'm not like one of those people, like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just like, was so excited to talk about it because
no, it's great. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it. I was like, who's talking? Because if you notice, the lighting was very specific on him. I don't even think they showed his face in full detail. And I didn't even clock I don't even know the voice acting. I didn't clock anything. But the Stardust also, just because, I've said it before, I loved Andor. It made me appreciate Rogue One in a way that I didn't before, because before I didn't feel connected to Rogue One. And then I watched it again and I saw Andor and I felt like, wow, I had just felt very connected and loved it. But I was so happy. I don't know. I love seeing characters that I wasn't expecting at all. And I'm not a dark side girly. I'm not walking around with Empire logos on. Like, cool if you are. Like, I get it because, I've got a whole shelf of Kylo Ren stuff. But he's just one, like, I don't care if I see Tarkin, but seeing Krennic, I was very happy. So at least for me, that was like almost to the level of if I had seen Newt Gunray.
Yeah, it was a fun little cameo.
Exactly. I appreciated it.
It was great. And we move back to the Bad Batch, who has successfully figured out their way into the base, and they need to go and plant the homing beacon, which, honestly is like such a like very passive way to go about this whole mission in some ways, like a really like non-aggressive way. And we have Hunter and Tech and Echo called away basically because of some weirdness on the base they notice, right? There's some surveillance outages in the base that Tech notices. And so it just leaves Wrecker and Omega to figure out how to get the homing beacon on. And this is where it's really a fascinating flip of this whole season, where they've been trying to get something precious out of the mountain this whole season, and this time they're trying to get something precious in, and they Echo does her little I'm a ninja or what is it, like a video game where you're trying to sneak around, and
the stealth mode.
Yeah. And Echo ends up having to create a diversion, and Wrecker ends up having to help them because everything is very chaotic. I felt so bad for the mouse droid that discovers her and Wrecker smushes.
Poor guy.
Hunter and Tech discover that they have run into basically rebels that they didn't know were going to be doing this.
I was so what?
Yep. And it's Saw Gerrera, which is this guy is everywhere.
Honestly, it was just the timing of it all. Of it was just not on my bingo card. Not that Krennic was, but I would have sooner had Krennic on my bingo card, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was just this was not what, this is probably the first, this was when I realized I really am not sure where they're going now, because that was something that came out of left field for me.
Yeah. And, he's very clear that he's just no, we got to just assassinate the top leadership. This is
typical Saw.
This is the greater good, right? And, it leans in heavily to the themes of Andor that we saw, and it's entirely in line with Gerrera and what he's done in the past, certainly.
Yeah.
They both kind of get caught up and end up having to escape in different ways. Saw Gerrera and his companion escape, and the Bad Batch does not.
Good for Saw, but in what world?
He's very good at staying alive.
He really is.
Yeah,
until he doesn't. But yeah, he was a long life.
He fought hard that whole time.
He really did. No rest.
The Imperials are alerted that people are, on the base, and the Bad Batch ends up getting chased as Saw Gerrera ends up getting away. And they take position on the rail car, and it's blaster fire this whole time. And effectively, they end up getting away long enough for the explosions on the base to happen, destroying the planting of the tracking device that would have led them to Crosshair. And they are stuck midair on the rail car.
Marie-Claire, I've got a bad feeling about this.
Yes. And that leads us directly into Plan 99, the last episode of the season. And we start immediately where we left off.
Yeah.
They are being constantly attacked by clone troopers. Tarkin sort of... It controls his people. We get these odd shots of basically Tarkin telling his people around the table that they can't leave, even though there's a chance they could blow up, which is very on brand for him.
Yeah. with the room shaking, and they go into that lockdown mode. And I was just sitting there man, this is the equivalent of earthquakes in California, and how he's acting it is the chillest room in the world. I'd hate to have him as my guy in charge of the meeting, because he's the one that you need to leave, work's over and you need to get home, and he's not letting you because we're not done for the day.
Well, and it also makes the scene in A New Hope when he's sir, we've analyzed the plans and there does appear to be a weakness. And he's like, what? Leave now in our moment of triumph?
I know. Dumb.
It's this is your fatal flaw, Governor Tarkin.
Yeah.
Yep. The V-Wing fighters, the starfighters start to attack the rail cars, basically starting to knock them off. They need to try to hurry up. So Tech jumps out to try and get the power to move again. And it reminds me so much of Solo from that moment on.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, there's a lot of like reminiscent feeling with Solo.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because it's just I don't know, it's probably the rail cars, but yeah, it's not their first time with rail cars either, because like season 1, that episode where they go into the mine with Sid, and it's like I was kind of scared. Like I was scared. I mean, I get scared easily, but that was one where I felt there were actual genuine stakes. I don't even remember where it was I think it was like towards the end of season 1 maybe, but it was scary. I mean, it was a scary feeling, and I got that same vibe here again. That's kind of when I was like, wait a minute, the music has shifted. Oh no. Like you could tell there was a shift in the tone.
Yeah.
With this scene.
Yeah. It was a lot. And, Tech ends up through the firefight, ends up hanging off of a cord, basically, dangling over Misty, who knows what. And half the rail car is starting to pull off of the tracks. And so he uses his gun and says, Plan 99 to wreck her. And the carriage that he's attached to falls. And the rest of the carriage carries on. All right. I know we already talked about it a bit. But I don't think he's dead.
So I did. I think because I was like, clutching my couch, going, no, 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 no. And just like holding in like very audible gasps for some reason. Because it was coming. You could, like I said, you could tell from the music. You could just tell. And I fully thought like, okay, he's done. But also, you don't see anything. I mean, we don't see anything.
Yeah, we don't see anything.
And in Star Wars, you have to see it. Like we know. Like I still fully believe that Ben Solo is like alive in the Force, or because he disappears. It's the same kind of like, where did he go? I don't know how they would have. Okay, just go.
Okay. It reminds me too much of Bucky Barnes from a Marvel perspective. Right. Yeah. From a Marvel perspective, like he falls, we don't see him, and there's a frigging mad scientist who has his body. I don't know. I just, Yeah.
I know. I see it.
Yeah.
I get it. I think that there's a clue later, which is what convinced me. I also had to actually go back because, well, I mean, I'll let you continue because we're just discussing Tech's probability of being alive, but I would just be very surprised.
Yeah.
I would just be very surprised.
He's one of their most popular characters.
Yeah.
Right? Which, I mean, has not stopped Star Wars from doing what they did in the past. But I also think, like, it's... the mythical reason to have him disappear is that the theme of finding something precious in the darkness that they have been using this whole season. And if they're about to go and find Crosshair and bring back Omega, what is the next thing that is stuck in the dark?
It's just interesting because we actually did have focus on Tech all throughout the season, and I didn't really pick up on it, I guess, but there's been a lot of, we talked about it several episodes ago. It's just that like we're seeing growth from Tech that we wouldn't have seen before, and obviously that was all leading up to this, and they do want us obviously to believe that he is gone, that we have felt more connected to him because of the way he was written this season, because of the bonding he did with Omega or the connection with Fee. And at this point, I'm sort of like I will be the first to say when I think Star Wars is doing the thing that I hate, like I don't really let myself hope too much, but I don't see why he would have. There's just no logical reason for him to be dead.
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to the story. It doesn't serve a purpose. The only purpose it would serve is to say it's to do what I feel like we've seen in like literature and stuff, like where we're
noble
killing off
sacrifice.
we're killing off a popular character because we need to make it more serious and we think this is the right thing to do. I don't see the writers being like that for Bad Batch.
Yeah. To me, it's actually more that Crosshair is coming back, and so there's somebody else who's stuck in the darkness.
Yeah, it's just interesting they did that because they really could have they really didn't have to. It's just interesting because we also don't get Crosshair back like I thought we would.
Oh, but he's with Omega, and that
I know, but like he didn't come back in the way that I thought. Like he didn't rejoin. We didn't get a rebel. I mean, we'll get there, but there was pretty much nothing I thought was going to happen happened, and
this really reminds me a lot of the end of Empire Strikes Back.
Why am I blank? Don't say anything. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Why? Because Luke is hanging off.
Well, like because Han goes missing.
No, I know. Yeah, I was just picturing Tex swinging there and then Luke hanging there upside down.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I mean, but more, it's like a dark end.
Right.
They have very little hope.
Yeah.
People are captured. Right. Really, it's like, yeah.
Maybe they did Empire it. Maybe they really maybe that's, I guess I didn't think of it in that context. I didn't think of how they would be, pulling from their own creations in the past. So maybe they really.
Star Wars. It rhymes.
I know. The best.
George Lucas scene quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
To me, it was just like, okay, it ends like the darkest potential midpoint.
Yeah, that's it. No,
if this ends up being 4 seasons, this would be the darkest point. Half of them are lost.
This is very much a second season, though. Mm-hmm. I don't mean it in a bad way necessarily, but I feel like second seasons are often kind of all over the place, intentionally or unintentionally. And with they obviously have to end with a cliffhanger, but it's
a good way to get a third season.
It really, I'm fine with it. Do what you gotta do to get that third season of Bad Batch. Do it for the batch. I'm here for it. I'm okay with it. They can do whatever push me over a cliff. I don't care. Do it.
Yeah.
I was worried.
Just sort of thinking is Tech ends up, being the sort of experimented on person where they've replaced his entire insides or something, right? Or they've cloned an entire new body and transferred his psyche or something, right? There's a way that they could have been we're going to use this person in this way and not.
They're going to echo him.
No, I mean, they're cloners, right? So they might grow him a new body and transfer him into a new body.
Oh, so he's like the scientist who becomes a computer in the MC. What's his name? The German
Vision?
Not Vision. No, the Nazi, the one that
you mean yeah.
You know who I'm talking about? I can say it. It's okay.
Yeah.
I was just kidding. Quick thing though, is it bad? So what you're saying, I actually, when Omega woke back up, I was like, did AZ give her robot parts? Is she going to be a cyborg now? So I thought this of Omega.
I mean, I just think that they're dealing with so much cloning. I feel like they're going to solve
something with him.
Yeah.
Because they're missing a piece of the puzzle, and that's something that we forget because we've been so focused on Crosshair.
Yeah.
Well, at least me.
Or they'll tie it back to what the Emperor's goal is to build himself a new person.
It's just so interesting that this is the story that it ties into. It's just so interesting that this is how it ties into, this is what they chose to tie into Rise of Skywalker. I feel it's just well,
I mean, I think it makes sense because Clone Wars redeemed a lot of what people had, the rougher edges of the prequel trilogy.
I just don't see a lot of people asking for, at least from my area of fandom, I don't see a lot of people asking for that. And I think it's interesting that this is the first response we're seeing to, I wouldn't say it's not a retcon, but this is the first response really we've seen from Lucasfilm of, here is what we gave you with Rise of Skywalker. Here are our attempts to kind of fix some of this mess, because I
other than the books, because they've
other than here, okay, then
let me live action or
here
animation.
It is for the people who don't read. Me. I do listen.
I don't have time to read anymore.
I don't either, I majored in English literature, everybody, so I am fully allowed to not read ever again. No, I do read though, but I don't have the time either half the time. But I just think it's really interesting, because it wasn't, I thought that the whole theme of the Bad Batch was like another way to introduce the rebellion and also tell the story of found family, and that was it. I didn't expect it to tie. I'm not thinking of the larger picture. Like, I wasn't watching Andor thinking, I did wonder, what are they building? But I wasn't thinking of how that tied back into Rogue One and how it ties his story in even more. And they're kind of doing the same thing. I don't hate it. I'm not mad. I like it. I'm just surprised.
Yeah, I am surprised too. I love the thematic choice. It ties really, really well with what we've always wanted from Stormtrooper Rebellion, from the, sequel trilogy, and everything that happens with that, and how it ties back to the clone troopers, how it ties back to the Jedi, how it ties back to kind of where things started to go but wrong from a galaxy perspective, is like raising people just to kill them. Right? Like that's really massively important to me, but it also ties to plot-wise trying to make sense of some of the later choices.
I mean, I like any excuse to tell people to watch the show.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of saying, hey, did you feel unsettled by Rise of Skywalker? And did you hate when Poe said somehow Palpatine has returned?
I've got a show for you.
Well, I've got a show for you. You're not going to feel better about Ben Solo. Sorry, but we can address the cloning issue. And everyone will thank me.
It's also being addressed in Mandalorian, obviously, right? So just a bit, right? But it's more like the rise of the First Order, I guess.
Was that in this week's or?
Yeah, tiny.
I haven't seen it yet. I know that there's something that I'm supposed to really like in it, and that's all I know. But.
Yeah. All right.
See.
Back to the show.
Yeah.
Of course, they fight their way on the rail car, and they're heading towards the Marauder, and everyone is knocked unconscious due to the crash.
That's a big crash.
Yep. Omega especially is knocked out, which was
poor baby.
It was hard to see, and they carry her out and realize, the only choice is to bring her to AZ because they're not equipped to handle everything, and they head to Ord Mantell, and she's attended to by AZ. She awakes, and everybody is in sad mode.
And a neck brace.
And Wrecker's in a neck brace.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I was like wiping, my very wet eyes. But then I saw that neck brace and I kind of lost my mind because it looks so goofy. It just looks like an egg on top of like a cone. I don't know. I thought it was hilarious, but poor guy. I mean, I was very sad, and I know this was an unintentional moment of like, what? But I appreciated it nonetheless. Thank you, Wrecker.
Yes. Hunter is just in an absolute spiral, and Wrecker is there at the bar. Sid offers Wrecker a drink.
How did I forget? Like, thanks for... I even mentioned Sid earlier. Ugh. Continue, please, so I can rage. Yeah. Hunter did, though, tell Omega, hey, we're considering maybe being soldiers. Maybe we should, save what we still can. Maybe we should settle on Pabu and just, not try to take on the galaxy. And Omega's like, yeah, I think that's what we will do. Her little face, she doesn't even say anything. She's just like, finally, you're thinking with your brain. Yeah. Maybe being a soldier isn't all it's cracked up to be. Maybe Omega is a child, and you now realize that, Hunter. Yeah. And we have Sid, of course, offering the drink to Wrecker in Tech's name.
And, you know, Wrecker can't even drink. He's the neck brace, just too much and everything with tech.
Yeah.
And Gonki and Echo are alerted to the fact that a Star Destroyer is coming into the atmosphere, and that there has been a communication jam. Communication interruption can only mean one thing: invasion.
This was my wait a minute. Oh no.
Yeah. And you knew Sid had betrayed them.
We talked about
we've been talking about that. We talked about it last episode. I'm like,
that's exactly what I
Sid's gonna betray them.
This was one of my texts to you, I believe, was one of my oh man texts, because the first thing I thought was like we were theorizing on the disappearance of her presence and how we couldn't see her. We only heard her last episode, I guess, or 2 episodes ago. And I'm going to keep it PG and not say some of the things I was saying, but I was mad.
I mean, to me, this is just going to lead to a Sid-demption.
I'm not asking for that, though. I don't need it. I don't care if she's sad.
No, Sid-demption. Like, she's going to, like, come back from this. She's going to make up for it. She's going to
like, I don't care if she's sad and she is getting this. Like, I was just like, she had no pressure on her. No one was asking for her to do this.
No, she did it for money.
She did it for money.
Yeah. And because she felt like they weren't doing things for her from a control perspective. And so she was like, well, you might as well still make me
sold
some money.
out. Oof.
Yep.
That was it. I was very angry.
Hunter makes sure Omega leaves. She does not.
Big surprise.
Hunter and Wrecker basically are captured. And then we have this amazing scene with Hemlock showing up and handing the goggles as a gift.
Thanks.
And talking about the psychological impact of what happened on Hunter.
And this was the moment I was like, oh, maybe he is alive.
I mean, this is a feint, right? This is the classic,
right, exactly.
Like, I'm just trying to get you to give up because you understand the cost of things.
This was Chewbacca in Rise of Skywalker, where I thought he was, and I was like, I'm not falling for this again. Like, you're showing me proof this time. I'm not falling for this again.
Yeah.
And it's just like very telling, because before Omega passes out, she's like she's asking for tech.
Yeah.
And then we don't see his body. I had to rewind because I was like, was that his body? No, it was a rock. It was not him. So we still haven't seen him, but now we're seeing the goggles. I just think it's very telling that there is, now I have like less of this, wow, I can't believe
maybe I'm
off.
Crazy, but
we could be crazy.
But Tech lives in all of our hearts until he lives again.
Tech lives.
Tech lives.
Ezra lives.
Somebody posted that on a Facebook.
Really?
It was Dave Filoni with Tech lives ? Over top of like the Ahsoka lives.
Or Ahsoka lives. Sorry, not Ezra. Wait.
No, it was over.
Find Ezra. Ahsoka lives.
Yeah. Find.
Oh my gosh, that's find Crosshair. Or Ezra
find
lives.
Crosshair. Tech lives.
Okay, let's make the shirt.
I have a Maul lives shirt.
I kind of want that too.
Because I actually don't think that Maul is like dead. Like he's too angry to ever not be part of the Force and being like I don't know. I have this whole theory about Maul, so we'll see. I mean, I feel like Dave loves all of his children too much.
I agree. I mean, that's I'm just really amused. But yeah, I agree with that. He really does. He's very attached, which is why we have so many concepts of people living on and, with stuff that he creates.
Yep. Omega and AZ sort of escape and are on the fire escape, sort of the balcony. And she sees them like leading Hunter and Wrecker out. And so she fires shots. She's like, fires. And Hunter's like, what are you doing? Run, get away from here. And she ends up getting captured by a commando. Because she's a child.
She's a child.
Yeah. Yep. She's captured and she is brought to the mountain. Mount Tantus.
See, she made it after all.
Just in time for Nellis to show up and greet her at the airport.
We can. They really paraded her out of her cell just for this when they could have walked away past her. They went through all that trouble to bring her outside.
And Hemlock's like, I saw how much you cared about this clone. And so I really wanted you to notice that I brought her here, so I can do things to make you to actually make you to help. And Nellis is like, it doesn't matter what you want, dummy. Like, I can't help you.
Yeah.
What you want doesn't happen. They are able to, of course, Echo and Hunter know that they need to not stop until they get her back. And this, of course, is that quest for that hidden inner feminine. It's deeply significant and important in our culture. And I am very, very excited for how this will play out in future seasons. They, of course, they lead Omega to the laboratory where the clone troopers lie, and Omega sees people in storage tanks, and of course the clones like laid out on like operating type tables or like pallets sort of.
Yeah.
And Emery Carr is supposed to treat her wounds, and she's like, oh my god, it's Crosshair. And Emery's like, big reveal, I'm your sister. So this is the Empire Strikes Back of it all for me.
Oh, good
right?
point. I was wondering why it felt familiar.
It left all darkness, and she's like, hey, I'm also a femme clone, and it now makes sense why she's had a New Zealand accent this whole time. I only, again, clocked it when she said her name, because I make it a point every time I walk past this one billboard at downtown Disneyland that has the Bad Batch, and I always say their names like Amiga, Tick, Prosta. Like I go through it every time. Amiga.
So when I heard Omega, like a female voice saying it, I went, wait a minute, she's also NZ? Like she's a Kiwi too? And then she revealed it, and I went, oh my, what?
Yeah. And this ties significantly to a myth.
All right, lay it on me. Let's go.
It's a Sumerian myth where Inanna, to get her husband back, goes to the underworld to visit her sister Ereshkigal, who is the queen of the dead. And along the walk, she is stripped of all of her adornments until she is basically at the bottom of the lowest point. And this is the descent into the goddess. And you meet the goddess who teaches you the power of the darkness.
So is that implying that Emery Carr is actually not going to help out?
You don't get what you think you want. You get what you need when you go in a descent.
That doesn't make me feel better.
No, it doesn't. So it depends. It depends on what happens. Honestly, I can't tell you right now, but I can tell you what this ties to mythically. Huge heroine's journey. The descent into an initiation into the goddess is basically the symbolic flag to say Omega is about to be like, it's a tie to puberty. It's a tie to becoming a woman. It's a tie to all of that. So the most direct parallel we have that I can easily talk to from a Rey perspective is first in The Force Awakens, when she goes into the basement to find the lightsaber, and then she ends up speaking with Maz Kanata about the Force and things like that. And Rey, when she goes to the dark in TLJ and sees many of herself.
The listeners, I just like made a snapping motion.
Yeah. And like the snapping, and then the mirror, right? The mirror. And what is she seeking? She's seeking family, and she only sees herself, right? And then, of course, we have in The Rise of Skywalker, Dark Rey, which I would argue is not there for her, but for the audience. But
yeah, I pretty much leave Rise of Skywalker out with that. But
important to note that they have a consistent pattern for femme characters, because there's a need to confront this dark goddess figure inside of the mountain, inside of the darkness. Was I expecting this in Bad Batch? No.
Me neither.
But it also means symbolically Omega is becoming a woman.
I mean, it's an interesting, like, I mean, I like that it takes her away from her family. I mean, Crosshair's there, but he's not really there, right now.
It separates her from her guardian figures that are preventing her from growing up in many ways.
And we know that they're preventing her because we just dealt with this 2 episodes ago, or 3. I don't know anymore, Pabu, where Fee says she needs to be with kids her own age, and she only gets that moment with Shep's daughter, like out in the ocean or whatever. She's hanging out with another kid essentially, but she's really not getting a lot of extended time with kids her age because she's always drawn back to her guardians, and they can't let her go. So this was really the only way to separate her, I guess.
It's also super interesting that we've been presented with so many darker feminine people, and the person that she sees in the darkness is an older version of herself. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't think we haven't had that. We've had,
I mean, Sid, dark feminine, obviously.
Yeah, but not a direct parallel, like
semi-dark feminine, darker, right? Like not in the same way as Sid, but also sort of representing wisdom of a different kind that she received this whole time. And Emery Carr is absolutely sort of like that mirror of power, dark power in the darkness.
Yeah, I guess I meant like a direct tie, like blood.
Yeah, this is new. Yeah.
Which I like because, Luke, Cave, it's his own face. Rey, mirror, it's always how she is then, but like the age she is now, etc. But this is the first time, and pretty much, I guess, the only way that they could do this with a character because of the rapid aging that clones have. So it's really, I mean, I think that's, like you said, it's really cool to see that because it is new, and I like they do new things in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Even when they don't do it. It's hard. I can agree. It is really hard to do because Star Wars just has so much literature out there, and we know it so well. That's probably why I was so caught off guard. Also, just because I was just like, where's the Clone Rebellion? How are they going to do that in one episode? We're not going to get it. Now what's going to happen? Oh, she's going to be trafficked. Wait a minute, a sister?
Yeah, it's great.
Sister.
Yeah, it absolutely gives us so much to think about. It's a brand new development, and it makes me really excited for more Bad Batch, even though we'll have to wait a little bit, I'm sure.
Ugh, if they say 2-3 years, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm sorry it takes a while to animate things. I'm just saying I'm going to lose my mind. They're going to be like, kind of like with the next celebration where you have to wait another, not 1, but 2 years. They're going to be like, you get Bad Batch in 3 years.
Oh, God. Well, I don't think it's canceled at this point. I
don't either. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But that would be super weird. If they did. There's no way. I'm pleasantly surprised, to be honest. I didn't have high hopes because they don't promote Bad Batch nearly enough.
Star Wars across the board isn't doing numbers on the streaming service as far as I can tell with the stats that I have access to.
And with all of the things that happened today.
Yeah.
With streaming specifically.
Yeah, there was a lot of upheaval.
A lot. But my friends are safe, and that's all that matters, I guess. But the Star Wars it almost feels like they're doing this for the fans of Bad Batch instead of for revenue. I'm not saying that's what's going on, but it feels like that for me because I genuinely like real life Star Wars friends, like people I can see in person. They are not watching Bad Batch.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mollie, this has been a ride. It's been a journey.
I mean,
we've gone
what
to multiple pain train. We've got to multiple mountains, ridden a couple of trains. It's basically Big Thunder Mountain.
That is, listeners, that is my number one ride. That is my favorite ride. I love me a Big Thunder Mountain. So if that's what they're giving me, I'll accept it.
Excellent. Any final thoughts on season 2 of The Bad Batch?
No, just that I didn't know where they were going, for the most part. Like, I figured a rebellion, which we didn't get.
We got all the groundwork.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Now it all makes sense why I, in particular, felt that this had been stretched out a lot.
Yeah.
And now I see why. Now I see that this was a true season 2 of a show preparing you for the next season. And that this was just one big cliffhanger episode of a season. I'm not mad about it because I like when projects continue.
Yeah, we're certainly in the darker middle chapter aspect of it by now, right?
And it is going to be a little tricky, I think, once I have to go back and rewatch everything before the next season, just because there is a lot to get through again. But I remain excited about Crosshair, and I'm just so appreciative that you brought me on for this ride.
Oh, I love you, Mollie.
I love you too. I'm just so happy to be here, and that I hope I can, contribute some value to discussing it.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. Thank you for joining me.
No, it's been wonderful. I'm going to miss it.
A reminder to those listening that happen to be going to Star Wars Celebration, I'm actually on a panel, Powerful Light, Powerful Dark, the mythology of the sequel trilogy. And I think I'm doing a What the Force meetup TBD. Check your socials. I need to decide where. That's my biggest concern, as I don't know this location at all. Yeah. And everyone I've spoken to is like, I don't know.
Yeah, none of us know.
Yeah. So.
I mean, just pick a hotel bar or something. Like the lobby.
Yeah, I might just be like, and we're meeting on the show floor.
That too.
By the giant TIE fighter that's always there, or whatever. Whatever the biggest ship is.
Or the Lego booth. There's always a Lego booth.
Yeah, there's always a Lego booth. No, I absolutely do want to do a What the Force beat up and see as many people as possible. Of course, you can always check out my panel, which will be on Saturday, April 8th at 1:30 p.m., which I hope will be a blast. And I look forward to talking more about Bad Batch when it's back.
Me too.
It makes me super happy.
Me too. I love them so much.
Mollie, where can people find you if they're looking for you and your cool stuff online?
Oh, yeah. I have lots of I've got some cool stuff left. But you can find me on Twitter at Darth Mollie, Maullie, or on Instagram at Darth_Mollie. Or if you happen to see me at Star Wars Celebration, please come up and say hi if you do recognize me. My profile picture is on Twitter, and I've got red hair, so sometimes I'm easy to spot. But I'll be in costume, and I'll be at the What the Force panel. So just come say hi. Tell me that you don't like the way my mic sounds, because I don't either. I don't know. Just I don't know, people. I know it's really hard to approach people sometimes, and I get shy too.
I love meeting people.
I love meeting people, though. I kind of just force myself to be the first to talk sometimes. So just know that, I am trying also to see as many people as possible. So yeah, don't be shy. I'll give you stickers.
I learned last Celebration that by just saying, "Hey, I'm the woman with the purple hair," was not enough, because there were so many.
If you were going to say it was enough.
No, it wasn't enough, because there was a woman who came up and found me, and she was like, "Are you Marie-Claire? You are the 5th purple-haired woman I have approached." And I felt really bad at that point.
Yeah, they really. I need to. We need name tags, but I think it helps that you'll have your panel. But I believe on Saturday, if you see me, I'll be the one. Just look for the World Between Worlds, and you'll find me.
Yeah,
and that's all I'll say.
It's gonna be so good.
It's great.
I'm contributing.
Yeah, she's directly contributing to my.
Yes, costume. I am helping.
Oh yes, in a big way.
Well, I love you, Mollie. Love you to all the listeners, and I will be releasing Mandalorian, of course, this week as well, and TBD on if I can record in London. So we will see. Take care, everyone. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to What the Force. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host. Our music is orchestral music by Christy Carew for What the Force. You can support the show directly on Patreon at patreon.com/whattheforce. We like to thank all our patrons, especially those who love and are obsessed with What the Force: Melody in Wild Space, How Rude, Anna Perez, Neil, Christian Luca, Carly Ann, Josh Johnson, Scott C., and Susan. Support the show by wearing the Force with our merch. Like and subscribe on YouTube or leave a 5-star review on iTunes or other podcast apps. It helps people find the show. You can connect with us on Twitter at WT Force Show, What the Force Podcast on Facebook. Our website is whattheforce.ca, or you can join the Discord. Links are all in the liner notes. Feel free to reach out and start a conversation. Cheers.